Okay, let me just post the Discord link. There we are. Should be all good. And we should already have 2 tracks in the queue. Of course, you guys can submit more. But we're just going to chill today and we're going to have a listen to some of your guys' music. I'm going to give a little bit of feedback, as always. Seems like I have slight connection issues right now. It's not great. Yeah, I'm dropping more frames and stuff. It's not great. Let's hope that it slowly improves. Maybe I'll have to reboot my modem if it doesn't improve. But we've had this a few times now, where in the beginning I get a bunch of connection issues for the first like 2 minutes of the stream, and then after that it becomes more stable. So let's hope it does the same thing here. It's still dipping for me. I assume that you guys don't see a stable stream right now of me, right? Maybe I'll quickly turn off and on the modem again. Okay. So I restarted my modem. Should take a few seconds for me to get back in there and be back online. And work in the preview as well. It's good now. And now it drops again. That was just a small drop. It's still getting worse. It's still dropping again on my end. Again, it's this thing over here, the stream health over here. As you can see now, it dips again to red, and then it just dips a little bit, drops a bunch of frames, and then it comes back. See, right? It's not green the whole way through like it should be. It becomes yellow every once in a while. I'll just see it through, and if there's any major disconnection issues, then I don't know what to do. We'll see. We'll just try our luck and hope that it works best. Hello, Good Vibes. Hello, Rita Lina. I'm sorry that it takes so long to set up. It's all going to be going away once I get a new apartment. I'll get a new internet service and then it would be better. Hopefully. Mr. Brown Alliance, welcome. Mind B, welcome. Magic Panda, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream as well. So, we're going to be starting out with Subdivision over here. Here's a track I'm working on, still a work in progress. Any feedback appreciated. So this is just an ID. You guys obviously can submit more tracks if you want in the feedback for stream over here in the Discord. Exclamation point feedback. I don't know if the bot is awake or not. Let's have a look. Seeing how today is going, that might also not work. Yeah, I'll probably have to log into Stream Elements. Turn the frame rate down to 720p might help a little. I mean, it's not about the bit. It's not about the like quality of it. It's about the bit rate. The internet just doesn't keep up with what the bit rate or what the minimum streaming requirements are for like HD streaming. Because I would like to have it 1080p because the interface and all of that. It's nice to see it big and in quality. And it should just work. Like 4G should be more than capable of just being able to do it. It just doesn't sometimes. It'll lock me out of my Stream Elements again. Ah, okay, because I cleared my cookies. That makes sense. Also, this is going very slow. Everything is going very slow today, guys. Sorry. Okay, now it should work. Hopefully. At least. Yes, there we are. So if you guys want to join into the stream, you want to submit your own track, then you can join the Discord with that link that just popped up. And then you can go into feedback on stream and drop your track right there. For now, we'll get finally into it. This is ID by Subdivision. And it stopped downloading. This is terrible. Now my download speed is... Always good to reboot your router for 5 minutes before the stream to clear out the data. I'll try that next time. That's definitely a good thing, yeah. I left it downloading for a bit now, so hopefully it will just play. Very mono reverb all of a sudden here on the flute.
So, you know what the Turing test is? Yeah, I know what the Turing test is. It's when a human interacts with a computer, and if the human doesn't know they're interacting with a computer, the test is passed. What does pass does? That the computer has artificial intelligence.
Your kick and bass, when it's low pass filtered, is as loud as it is in the drop itself, which means that it doesn't really have an impact when the drop starts. The second thing is that you clearly need to clean up your kick and bass, because your bass line is bleeding into your kick transient over here, your kick is going into the transient of your bass line over here, and this transient is morphing into the next transient of the bass over here. In this case, that makes the transients very, very unclear. I don't like the snare that you're using. I'm not a particular fan of that. It's one of those snares that has like a very strong tonality somewhere over here, down below. I would at least remove the lower frequencies of that snare there, so that you only keep the noise component of the snare. Synths are very, very good. Here you have like still one acid one shot that plays every bar, I think. I would remove that, and then you can focus a lot more on the sequences that now started playing in this section. Overall, your track is a little bit sub-bass heavy, I would say. Could do with a little bit lower of a sub-bass here. Vocal was a little bit loud there. There the kick transient is non-existent. Maybe some fade-in issue or something like that. Your top drums are also very, very quiet. Normally what you'll see here in the spectrum is that this is like shaping up a little bit. That's usually what the sidetrans spectrum kind of looks like. Even now the open hatch doesn't really pierce through the mix. I mean, the sound design is there, the arrangement is there, it's the mixing and the details. So overall I would say very well done for production. If it's still a work in progress, then that's all things that you can quickly fix, right? And maybe you do a mixing stage in the end and then you catch those details with the like the balancing here and the fact that the drums are lacking so much. Nice. I think you should do another... I don't know what your plans are, but after this there should probably be another... Like, this should be a breakdown, and then you would have another drop, I would assume. But overall, it's a good start. There's a few details to worry about. But I don't see how you cannot quickly improve those and then write the rest of the track. Sounds very nice. Next up, we have Tik Tok by Orin here. I believe this is some techno stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Like, doesn't this guy do techno?
Beat goes off, when the beat goes off,
Sounds like it.
Beat goes off, when the beat goes off, we bang to the beat goes off, when the beat goes off, when the beat goes off.
Now we have a finalized master track. That's a little bit nicer to critique, because with that last track, I don't know how much of those things you would catch yourself in just finishing a track. Very nice. I like it. Being kick drum as well, I would fade out a little bit earlier in this one. Very clean mix. Everything up until this point is sounding very, very clean. It's not much to say, actually. Maybe the only thing arrangement-wise, but that's something that I'm seeing from the way from over at SoundCloud. You have the drops a little bit too short. Like this, more a bit like rave music. They can definitely have a longer drop. Here stuff is starting to become like noisy and stuff like that. This is becoming too much in my opinion. And this is a strange transition as well. Goes from very heavy to very quiet. Tomel, welcome, welcome. Mic loudness is low. I'll add a few dB of gain to it, so now it's a bit louder. This is a particularly loud track as well, so that is also an issue, yeah. It does get crunchy in these points and it starts to distort, so here I would say that it's a little bit too loud as well. Music for funerals. I thought you would like this kind of music. This is exactly what you would want at a funeral. At least I want this to play at my funeral. Very nice. I like it. It is very loud though. A little bit too loud in my opinion. And there was that one transition where it was a little bit too much in terms of going from very high energy to very low, almost nothing going on. That was a little bit too jarring of a transition for me. And I think there were like 2 points where the distortion really started to shine through in the track. And that doesn't do your track a lot of favors. It starts to sound crunchy, but in a bad way. The way that you're distorting your track. Overall, it is very good, right? It's some small details that you can improve. Like this is a track that I would consider releasing like this. The way that you have it now. But there's always some things that you can improve if you want to. But this is like the last 2% that you can improve on your track. I like raw sounds. You should work on the raw kick and use that in one of the drops. The hardstyle kick. Yeah, normally I think he does use that. But for this one he decided against that. Because I do think he also does like the hardstyle drops, at least in some of his tracks. Or every drop having a different kick drum. And I think I said once to him, you should just try a track where the kick drum is always the same. That I would like that. And I do, because that's what this was. Okay, I should keep this here. Next up we have Kasab, also known as cheese bread, also known as Magic Panda. Your life is your life master. Very nice. That means that that's also final. By the way, Mateus, Modern Music for Funerals, and Miles, welcome to the stream. I hope you guys are doing well. Oh. Very slow start here.
Your life is your life. Don't let it be close.
I don't know what's happening. I started playing it and it immediately dropped because of the downloading. I think. I'll try again, see if it downloads more now, and if that again causes connection issues. Because if that is partially responsible for the problem that I'm having with the connection.
Your life is your life. Don't let
then there could be something around to do to get around that.
the watch. There are ways out. There is a light somewhere.
Nice swing groove here.
Much light, but it beats the darkness.
I like that the vocal becomes mono towards the end there. Nice groovy track. I would suggest that you would need to clean up the kick and bass. I also see that you're using some stereo width on the lower frequencies, which is something that I personally would advise against. You can see some clicks happening and stuff like that happening somewhere. In my opinion, the synth sound is a little bit too wide, a little bit too stereo. Elliot, welcome. sudden change, a very big change suddenly here. This is a little bit overwhelming. There's a little bit too much going on. In this part there seems to be some fighting in the lower frequencies, there seems to be some mud here.
Beyond the watch.
Yeah, I can see a sub bass there as well from something else.
Know them. Take them.
Only your bass line should be playing in those lower frequencies.
He can beat death in life. Sometimes.
It does seem to have a few issues in terms of its mixing. The other thing is, arrangement wise, I don't like that we're now again going into the bass like this. I also am not a fan of that fake drop over there. It is already such a complex track with so many little details in there and so many little background sounds that having such a complexity in the arrangement, I would personally not do that. Once the bass started to come in the break, that's why I would have also brought back the kick drum, and then from there on just continue having the drop be a drop. Where can I submit a track for your review? Exclamation point feedback in the chat. We'll get your link to my Discord server where you can drop your track. The weird thing is that we have already had this breakdown. We've already had this exact same thing before. Sounds like a lot of elements and sounds are overlapping. Yeah.
More often you learn.
Here it also sounded like there was some interference between the bass and some other elements.
Is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you.
Here with the ending, to be honest, I would just cut out the ending earlier. Like this bass on most systems, you're not going to hear that, so it's just going to sound like the end of the track just doesn't, or that there's like a very long pause at the end of the track. Whenever you would put this on maybe like a streaming service or something like that, and people have it in their playlist, that can be an issue. And overall, I feel like the last bassy bit doesn't really add anything to the track, musically speaking. Unless you have something very specific that you want to have with that you're writing with that in terms of your musical idea, I wouldn't do that. It's kind of like the same as you had it in the intro. There it also started with just the bass coming in very slowly. I would try to add a few more elements in the intro to just make the beginning a little bit more interesting. That way, if people press play on your track, it doesn't start off basically being silent like it does now. Other than that, as people pointed out, it's a very busy track. There's a few issues with the mix that still need addressing. But overall, I do like the idea. I just think that you're trying in some parts to go a little bit too much with the elements, and there was like a breakdown that kind of repeated twice in the exact same way. There should also, in my opinion at least, be a little bit difference between the first one and the second one. But overall, I really like the idea. I like that you're doing something unique. It sounds very good. And in terms of like the idea that you had with all of the vocals in there and stuff like that, that's really good. So next up, we have Juno. It's still not done, just wondering your thoughts. Okay. This is called Mystery, by the way. Bass note sounds a little bit short. It is nice and clean, that is nice, but the bass note could be a bit longer if you want to. This is also a bit more towards the techno side. Now in this case you would need to clean it up and make sure that the bass kind of stops playing right before this transient plays. And also here, it's kind of going down here. Where the peak happens, you can just go to silence and then play the kick from there. But that's of course, you would do that once the track is finalized. I do like the tonality of the kick and bass that you have. You're going with a little bit more of a techno vibe also in this instrumentation, I think. It is getting a little bit resonant here. Top hats are very quiet. At this point, I would start to feel like it's just kind of going on continuously, which it really is because of the melody that is continuously playing. I would have expected to feel somewhere and then a different element to come in, and here going back into the same element, it sounds very boring and it sounds very drawn out. There should be something else that should be playing here. Also at this point there should be like a closed hat playing. In my opinion there should be faster hats playing, so faster 16 note closed hats as well. The open hat on the offbeat. And snares. Okay, so that's the track. It just kind of cuts out there. It's not me turning it off. It just stops there. I have a lot of techno today. It is a nice start, yeah. It's just a work in progress, so there's a lot that you're still going to add, most likely. One of the things that I would recommend is that you should already be working in sections of 16 bars, so 15 bars of drop and then the last bar of a fill. That way you intuitively write elements into those sections, right? It makes it much easier to make it so that one section kind of stops somewhere and then the next section starts again, so the next few elements start to play and the old elements stop again. That is very, very important, because otherwise you're just adding stuff on top of it, and it's the same melody over and over again like it is now. It just becomes boring after a while. Lots of boring tracks today. I don't find these boring. I mean, it's just techno. It sounds nice. Next up, we have some more techno. As I said, there's a lot of techno today. This time by Sonic Flux, 303 times 909 times nothing, I guess. Kick is coming in a rhythm that I thought it wouldn't go. I thought the kick would be playing in the empty part there. Maybe a little bit of a drum fill before the kick starts to play can help the listener identify the rhythm before the kick starts playing, so that they can dance to it immediately. You have very stereo part over here, which is a bit strange. Also, I would suggest that you, again, resample your kick and bass so that you can just kind of fade out over here. That gives your transient the maximum amount of impact. Your closed head is completely mono. Personally, I like to use something like the dimension expander to just make it more interesting in the stereo field. Same with the closed heads for this kind of stuff. That stereo is rumble for from the kick. I know, but it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be that obvious right after the transient of the kick that it's so stereo. The rumble should come towards the end of the kick drum, not here. The rumble is this, should be this bit. This should still be punchy kick. At least in my opinion.
Sometimes I just walk away.
She calls me a loser, and I snap, and I don't like it at all.
I call everybody loser, so.
Did you call me a loser?
It's a little bit empty, and still the vocals have issue coming through the mix. Because the vocals are basically playing in the only area that is already occupied in the spectrum. So I would have the vocals either higher, or I would put this element a little bit lower so that the vocals can come top of it. But right now still they're occupying the same frequency range, which makes it really hard to mix them. And in this case it's really hard to understand. Then maybe I should add more punch in the kick first. No, you should just be able to control the stereo field over here. Just make this part a little bit less stereo. That's why you should resample. You just go with maybe like a utility, you resample one kick drum, and then you go width a little bit lower, and then towards up here, this area, you can raise the width back up to 100% or maybe even 120, depending if you want to actually add more width to your rumble. But you can just cut out one version of your kick drum, right? Resample it, and then apply that utility track with the width, and then you resample that again, and you just have a kick sample that is exactly how you want it to be. And then you just duplicate over the sample so that you have all of your kick drums replaced again. Here again, we're talking about like the way that you're adding to the arrangement is that you're just adding sounds on top of it. This washing sound that has been sidechaining in the back is still here from the last break drum, like the last break. So that played for like a minute and a half. That's, in my opinion, is just too long because it just becomes like static, boring noise that eventually your brain is going to turn off anyway. So it shouldn't be in the track. Very loud right thing. I'm also not a fan of the very long release synth here. It just sounds a little bit too washed out. I like this pattern over here, but it's a bit too loud. You can see how this thing is louder than the kick drum. Your kick drum should be the loudest element of your track. Here again, there's no way that you're going to be able to hear what the vocal is saying. So you should probably put those vocals in a place in the track where they're much easier to understand. Like maybe the beginning of this drop. Or maybe the outro. Overall though, in terms of the idea, it sounds very good. Some small details still to figure out in my opinion. But that will always be the case for any track. You can always make things better, right? So like you can always try to improve just that little bit more. But I do think that there's a little bit more to improve over here. Overall though, very nice idea, very nice track. I like the kick drum that you had as well. It sounded very good. And we'll go to the next one. Finally some psytrance, I think, I hope. 5-year-old track I never finished, broke all the rules in this one, thinking about putting this out of the grave and finishing it. Let's see. Very strong start. This is an interesting intro, I like it. Thanks for the feedback, you're welcome. Nice kick and bass. Looks nice and clean, although over here it is bleeding into the next one. This transient is a lot cleaner than this one, as you can see, so I would personally fix that. Just resample this thing and then just lay it down, it should be okay. I like that. That big atmosphere, I like that. Sounds very clean. Mix is very clean, the high end is very nice and clean. It makes a little bit... It doesn't make a lot of sense that there's like a triplet thing happening there. But it does kind of wake you up in a nice way. I do think I like it, because it's not exactly like fading into the drop with triplets and then going into a rolling drop. So it actually kind of fades out, the effect kind of fades out, and then the drums obviously help you get readjusted to the rhythm that is coming up in the kick and bass. It's just a strange observation that there was like a triplet thing happening there. I like the different vibe that you're going on here in terms of the synths that are playing. A little bit darker. Something strange is playing there. Overall, what I'm lacking most in this track is a little bit of character, a little bit of theme. And the second thing is the fills in the drop. Currently the drops are just one massive segment of kick and bass. And I would like to see some fills in there as well. The final thing that I might say, looking just at the arrangement from the waveform, is that you have a little bit too little drop going on. Especially the break that we're in now is, in my opinion, going to be a little bit too long.
If there are aliens, do you want to be here when they make contact?
The delay is getting a little bit in the way of the vocal. In general, the vocal can use some lifting up out of the mix. Dreamy. It does have a very dreamy feeling to it, yes. I do like the overall slow texture that you're aiming for in the track. And overall, I think, as I said, the sound design is very, very good. Very nice one shots in here. Start to lack the fill somewhat, also because the drums are constantly doing the same thing, so there's no energy built in the drums. You know what I mean? And here you're lacking a little bit the outro, so I would also recommend that you would write an outro for it. Overall, I think it's a very, very good track. It's a very good beginning, especially for an old track. If you can dust it off and you can improve a little bit more on it, that would be very, very nice. I would do it if I were you. It sounds very good. And there's a few things to improve, in my opinion. Hopefully I pointed them out. Next up, we have Immigrant Alien. How is this? The artist name is Immigrant Alien and the track name is Cosmic Dance, I think. I think I'll call it like that. Immigrant Alien with Cosmic Dance. Sibians. Nice. Kick and bass does need some cleaning, as you can see. Mainly the bass line leaning into its own transient. I also think that bass line envelope is a little bit too open with the filter cutoff, that it could close a little bit faster. These bleeps that you're playing here, being constantly in the same key, is a little bit questionable. It could be more interesting by moving them around in octaves maybe, randomly. Or just playing a more interesting melody. see if I can finish this soon. Nice. I did like your submission. Can I send some? Of course, exclamation point feedback. You'll be brought to my Discord server, and there you can submit your tracks. The new ideas are coming in, but the old ideas are not staying out. Because we already had a segment with all of those bleeps, and now there's other things happening as well, but the bleeps are still grabbing your attention. Those original sounds from the last segment. Really here the focus should be on those more slidey, delay sounds. The wow, wow. That thing there. It's really hard to describe, sorry. And at this point here, you seem to do some kind of melodic solo. That again should grab the attention from this point. Again, some fills to differentiate the different sections would be nice. Here some things start to become very, very loud. Too loud. The kick and bass is getting overpowered here. This sub-bass thing is very loud as well. Longer. You could add a third drop to that. How long have I been live for? Can I see? 52 minutes. Perfect. Okay, next up we have Tomel with work in early stage, maybe 50%. I got back to mixing tracks after a little break. Looking for feedback, thanks. 156 BPM G sharp. A little bit faster than your usual, but should sound interesting. Sounds like the synths are playing in reverse. These ones. Like they're fading in over time, instead of being transgated. These sound better, these ones. Which is what you want in your synth, because then they follow the rhythm. Overall, I do think intro. Kick and bass is nice and clean. Although I would say that the transient of the kick is a little bit too long. I hear this sometimes also even in my own kicks. I have a few kicks that have the same problem where it takes too long for the pitch to start going down. So you get like a zap sound instead of like a proper click sound. Kind of sounds like choo 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 as opposed to Stream is lagging here. It doesn't look like it on my end now, but I mean there's not much that I can do for it if it does happen. Very dark, short open hat. They could definitely be higher in volume, the hats here. And at this point I would also like to see some 16 notes for that faster speed, because that's what the sequences are doing. Maybe even a snare. I'm sorry that it's lagging. There's not much that I can really do now, unfortunately. I already restarted my router. At this point I would start with that new synth, that FM synth that is coming in here. I would have that in the forefront and have this element, the melodic element now turned off at this point, because I think it ran its course in the last bit. A little bit of a lack of transition there. It would normally, what you'll hear is that there's a little bit of a fill in there before you go into the actual drop. But this is nice and high speed again. I like it. Very cool there. I like that. This is the kind of sound design I sometimes also like to do when especially when I'm in the high-tech mood. I do also like that here you're clearly switching elements from one to the next. Here again, you're going into the drop immediately. In this case, it can work, but what I would do then is make it so that the volume of the build-up is a little bit lower. Then the kick and bass just comes in and it becomes a little bit louder and it gets a little bit of extra impact. It usually sounds a lot nicer. Overall though, it sounds very, very good. I like the speed of it. Here again, a nice change to a different idea. This is how you have clearly defined sections in your track. This is very well done. I like this. You could spend a bit more time on your fills though. Like a fill like that, which is like one in between the section, right? It's every 8 bars there. And this is the 16 bar fill. Mainly the 16 bar fills, those need to be showing the listener that there's an actual transition happening. Right now the synth just kind of plays up until the kick of the first section happens, and then new stuff starts playing. Here as well, things just kind of continue playing. There you could have a little bit of a drum fill, you could have some kick fill maybe. Maybe you have the bass continue to play, something like that. The distinction here is that at the end of the 16 bar, that fill is really where you transition from one element to the next. The way that you're doing right now with having the elements in each section different, that is very good, but in that filter or in that fill there should be the transition between them. Also the final thing here, just kicks sounds very bad. I would either remove this completely or put the bass in there, put in some atmosphere and turn that into the outro and then fade out from this point. Overall though, very, very nice track. I really like it. Some really cool ideas, some really well used structuring, or really well done structuring, I should say. There's a lot of work, was experimenting with FMs, no theme, nothing. I mean, it has the theme that it's on its own, has that like metallic FM feeling throughout the whole track, together with its pretty high speed, like 156 is a little bit of an unconventional BPM for this kind of full-on-ish style, I would say. Because normally that's like 147 maximum, maybe 149-ish, maybe 150 if you want to feel really fast. But 156, but it does work. It sounds nice, it does work, but it's just a little bit unconventional. It's a little bit faster than your usual full-on style that this would be. So you could use that as a theme. You could write around speed, maybe something like velocity, something like that. You can take a few vocals that embody that. You can take a few synths that kind of have that same feeling idea, maybe like an alarm, maybe like the sound of a race car coming by. That's how you need to think, right? That's how you need to think about the theming of the track. You need to start with, okay, what's the idea here? And then you say, which several sounds can I pull from that idea to make sure that the listener understands that that's the idea of the track. 156, 4 sub oscillations in G sharp. I didn't know that. To be honest, I never do those calculations, those kind of things. I just always find a sound that works right, as opposed to perfectly matching sine waves with the length of the thing. It is very interesting that that's the case, though. Next up, we have Mateus 28011. Track is in the composing stage, so that's early production, for those that don't know. Actually, the track isn't in the composing stage, the tag is in the composing stage. It's a very big distinction, obviously, my bad. I'm sorry, I just misread your message. Just trying. I mean, it's interesting. It's not my approach. It can definitely work as an approach. If you're, if you say like, oh, I like how the sound works when those oscillations finish, then that's a very good justification on why you would actually do that. It's just that that's not something that I take into consideration. Maybe I should take that into consideration, actually. I just feel like without taking that into consideration, I do get the kind of music that I'm trying to write up until now. Anyway, Spine by Better Message. Let's have a listen. Get some very dark vibes coming in here. I think the drop just started. This is the problem when you're filtering in kick and bass, right? It's hard to understand where the drop starts because the kick and bass becomes as loud as it is in the drop, and then there's no indication of where the drop actually starts. I would usually, all my filtered kick and bass is at least 5 dB quieter than my normal kick and bass, sometimes as much as like 13, 14 dB. Just so that when the kick and bass plays in the drop, it has more impact than when it plays outside of that. El Grido. like the sound design up until this point. Sounds very, very tight. Also, the tonality of your kick and bass is very good. Hello, Dovy. Thank you for passing by. Is it me or did the BPM change here? It just felt like it went slightly slower. I don't know, it was a very weird vibe there for a moment. Overall though, this track is sounding very, very nice. I like that you're using different forms of sound design here than you were doing a little bit ago. Often these darker side tracks have, in my opinion, the issue that after a little while all of the sound design is going to start to sound very similar, but you're avoiding that in a very cool way. Like before it was all FM synths, now it's all kind of stretchy. I don't even know what you're doing here. Yeah, I don't hear a lot to say. It's just a very good sounding track. The only thing I cannot really do is check your cleanliness of the kick and bass, but even with what we can see over here, I mean, this looks very, very good. Small tip, I showed this in the last mixing trick. I see you have the same issue that I often have when I have a snare on every other kick. When you have a snare on every other kick, what you can do is use a little bit of LFO tool to kind of like carve out the very start of the transient of that snare, so that the kick transient stays a little bit more consistent. I actually did this in the first of the two first of the two mixing streams that I did this week. Go into the first stream, once I start processing the snare, you should be able to find that I actually apply that same trick, I believe. I think I remember doing that. Gavin Human, welcome, welcome. Now with the track being around 7 minutes long, and this coming in at like towards the end of the 5 minutes, I'm almost assuming that you're going to write a track that is like 10 minutes long then. So that special bass line is kind of sitting in the middle. Otherwise you might want to use that in a space a little bit earlier, that one where it was mainly atmospheres. mean, you don't really have to, but from a structure, like a traditional sidetrans structure, the way that I write sidetrans, that would make more sense. This is, however, a little bit of a different style of sidetrans. So maybe for this kind of sidetrans it doesn't work, having special elements so late in the track introduced, and then for such a little time. Overall, very, very nice. Unfortunate that it doesn't really have a proper outro yet. I also assume that you're still working on the track because of that, but I don't know. Let's see, how long have I been live? An hour, 10 minutes. How many tracks do I still have? 1, 2, 3. 3 more. Track from 2015, and then Old Memories here. Operation. So this is called Operation by Joseph, also known as Wild Behavior in my Discord stream, or in my Discord chat, sorry.
Worked for the Umbrella Corporation, the largest and most powerful commercial entity in the world. I was head of security at a secret high-tech facility called The Hive, a giant underground laboratory developing experimental viral weaponry. But there was an incident. The virus escaped and everybody died. The trouble was, they didn't stay dead.
Definitely has some 2005 vibes with the kick and the bass. That being said, for 2005 track, this is very clean kick and bass actually. Very well done. Often hear this kind of thing in like old school side, but it being very mono in some spaces. Like nowadays you would never hear, if the kick and bass is going to be played so solo, you'll never hear the bass line being completely mono. You'll always hear a little bit of stereo wave on there. I mean, from everything that I've heard from the like early 2000s, this is definitely up there. This is definitely sounding very good. You have to keep it in mind what the context was, right? Nowadays we know everything about cleanliness, we know everything about phase shifts, we know everything about using analyzers and even stuff like how to get a loud mix, how to get a wide mix, how to process everything, how to do all of this crazy sound design. We have much more capabilities than people used to have in 2005. So that being said, this is a very good sounding track. To be honest, I would argue that giving feedback at this point is a little bit late, you know, with the track being 20 years old. Because normally feedback is for how can you improve for your next project, or how can you improve this exact project that I'm currently working on, right? Either people send their a finalized track and then they'll want to know, okay, what can I do in the next project to make better music than the track that I just made? Or people are working on something and it's like a work in progress and they say like, how can I improve this while I'm still working on it? In this case, I feel like both of those don't really apply to this track. That being said, if you want some actual proper feedback, in my opinion, the bass line is a little bit loud. The kick is quieter than the bass line. In my opinion, the bass line should be quieter than the kick, because the kick is the main thing that we're dancing to. Too late, yes, very late, to give feedback on this one. How come you skipped Orin Tik Tok? I didn't. I played it at the beginning of the stream. We went in order, starting with the one above Orin Tik Tok, starting with this one, and then we went down in order. I did not skip your track. I didn't skip it. Because it's the one that was so almost too distorted. In some places it was too distorted. The techno one, the first techno one that we heard. Bit strange that key change there had to happen. For a second it sounded like the bass was out of tune, because the bass kind of came in and then the plug started playing. Must have missed it. Apologies. No worries, happens to the best of us. What do you think about the story? Overall, there's not a lot of progression in the track, in that the elements that come in the tracks stay pretty much similar throughout the section that they play in. So for example, here you have that plug playing a melody thing, and it is changing key every so often. But it would be nice if maybe the plug opens up the filter cutoff every like a little bit over time. Hello Mary. Other than that, some pads kind of building up as well. Every once in a while a high pass. Every once in a while like a proper fill. Would also be nice. As opposed to just the one beat where the bass line is missing. Hope you're all doing transy. Yes we are. When I go to the beginning of the stream, it's not there. That's because it was the second track. Honestly, man, just skip around. You'll find it. It's the second track of the stream. Like probably like 10 minutes in, maybe 15 minutes in. Can it be the case that we had the disconnect after we listened to his track? That it will only become available, that part of the stream, once the video gets made, once I stop streaming? Because we did have like one connection issue where I had to quickly restart the router. But I thought that was at the very beginning of the stream that I did that. Nice track, I like it. This was, for those wondering, Operation by Joseph. And overall it sounds very nice. We have another track of his, which is this one over here, Old Memories. I get it, bro, the next one is very, very different from this one. And also the sound is a bit worse, but way more changes. Let's see. Old Memories. How do I send a track? Are you still doing feedback? Yes. Exclamation point feedback. I like this kick and bass a lot. It is unprocessed, but that's kind of the old school vibe. Again, normally you would also see some stereo width in there. Juno 2005 also. 2005 also. It does have that vibe, yeah. You can kind of tell that it's that old school thing. Nice little chord patch there. I like that. Overall, I would say, yeah, already there's a lot more going on in this track here. Here we get some actual progression, right? There's the riser that rises up. I'm not yet hearing a lot of that. So for example, with a synth patch, you can open up the filter cutoff, you can make the release longer, for example. You can make it less plucky sounding overall, maybe the decay as well. Open up the sustain maybe. Here, this synth that you have playing here, you could put it for like a comb filter that slowly rises in its frequency on top of it. I do like the chord thing that you're doing here. That's kind of what I meant with progression. To be honest, in this track it's not really that needed, because again, the old school vibe is different. Normally nowadays we would put, like as I said, like a comb filter, have some progression through it. But for that time, it's very understandable that it's not there. Because this is kind of also the style, the culture then, right? You make your art and that just plays for a while. Because back then a lot of people used to do it also with hardware a lot more. Do you know Core G? He is an Australian artist mixing psytrance and dubstep sounds. He's very good. I like his track, The Mind, I think it's called. That's the only track of his that I have in my playlist. But yeah, it's a very good track. This track is great too, very bouncy. Yeah, I like it. At least I've seen some videos from his on that topic, which is very interesting. Very nice rising effect that you had here. Very nice build up. I love that. The only thing I would say is your snare is a little bit too in your face. It's a little bit too loud here in the transient. I thought before how nowadays what I like to do is with a little bit of edit to just chop off the very transient of the snare. Like the first half a millisecond, maybe or maybe 1 millisecond-ish. Maybe even that is too much. But just like a very tiny amount of that very first transient so that the start of the kick transient really comes through the snare. And secondly, I would remove the fundamental of the snare. Even, can you please tone it down a little bit? Thank you very much. I also like the short vocal chops. Yeah. Some really cool elements in here. I also like, yeah, the last thing is that for each drop you had your one unique main element, which is really well done. That sets each drop apart from each other. So very well done. I like it. Next up, I'm gonna take a quick break because I've been doing this for 1.5 hours now. After that, we're going to go into future music. You guys can keep submitting your music if you want. Again, ! feedback. Like so. And you'll be able to dive into the Discord server. While I have you guys here, I do quickly want to promote something as well. Recently, I had a mixdown, which I did. A DJ mix that I did right over here. I am going to drop a link in the chat. I would really appreciate it if you guys would listen to the whole thing. Watch time is very important on YouTube to get good stats. So if you have 1.5 hours during the week or something like that, or maybe once you're at doing something at work that you can play music with, consider listening to this mix. Stop it, please. Consider listening to this mix, because that will help my project, my label project, of course. And of course, in turn, also the channel, what I do here online with all of the tutorials and stuff. So please go support that, and I hope you enjoyed the mixdown. And there's going to be a new mix every month, so make sure that you're also subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss out on any new mixes. That's the promotional thing done. All in one take. Very well. Very nice. I'm going to put on some music. I'll put on this track over here, which is actually part of the mix. This is the last track from the mix. There's a few things that are currently like standing out to me that is wrong with it, but you guys have to get through that. Mainly the way that this vocal is mixed over here and some other details. I do think it's a very cool track, and with a little bit of work it can really get somewhere. So I'll see you guys in a little bit, right after the break, once this track is finished.
life is no longer your own. When everything you know is wrong. Now, more than ever.
Okay, was a little bit late this time. Not perfect timing this time. Happens to the best of us. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed the track. It indeed has a flute in there. It's the Lotus flute from Omnisphere, I believe. It is 100% an Omnisphere patch, but I believe within Omnisphere there's a few flutes, and I believe it's the Lotus flute in that one. The vocals, yeah, they're very good. I found them. I was really happy finding them. And it does indeed have a little bit of a hint to Asterix with that one variation of the kick and bass there. Just for like 8 bars or something like that. Just as like a little reference. I like that. I'll keep that in. I actually like that one. I do quickly have to get back to the kitchen because I'm out of stuff to drink. So I need another 30 seconds and then I'll be back for the next track. Okay, now I'm ready to go. Let's see, we have 2 more tracks to listen to right now. This one here, Future Music, just named RRR. Let's see. Very nice stuff. Unfortunate that it's out of key. But if you take that track and you take all of the reggae elements, all of the stuff that is out of key away from it, and then actually play with the reggae elements as like your main inspiration, and then write around that, always be in the right key, always be in the right like harmony of it as well, not just the root key but also the keys within there. If you write something properly around that, then I think that could work. And still, if you delete the high-tech or the reggae stuff from this track, you still have a very nice high-tech track that you can work with. Thanks for listening and for the feedback. You're welcome. Next up, another track from Tomzul. You guys can keep sending tracks, by the way. For a second, I thought that this was Saul Goodman. It might be. It has a little bit of Saul Goodman vibes, you know? The guy in here. Please let me know what you think of this track, my latest track. I cannot see it. You need to send it in the Discord. You cannot send it here. Again, exclamation point. Feedback.
I was one of the first people to be connected to the internet, 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 the internet.
Here, the vocal has a little bit of a problem.
The internet,
it's properly mixed, it's properly put in the track. It's just saying the internet. What you can do is try to minutely like focus into that small part of the vocal and where it has the T sound, to try to just turn up that little bit and then crossfade to make sure that there's no clicks. But there you have to do some like very small vocal editing. Overall nice kick and bass, a little bit too sub heavy. But it's nice and clean, looking very good. I like it. Overall the tonality, it's the way that, for example, the filter closes and the way that it's processed is sounding very nice. It is Saul Goodman indeed. It does very much look like him, yeah. I like that you're using the reverse kicks and then chopping off the transients so that the kick, instead of kind of reversing up and then down again, like if you look at this graph over here, instead of it going up and then down again, it just goes up here and then it still has that impact of the transient itself. Where do I send my track? In my Discord. Why is the thing not working? The bot. Normally it should give you a link to my Discord server. It should also be in the description of my stream. Then you get, just like Josh did, who did it perfectly, you just go into my Discord server over here, you scroll down, feedback on stream, and you post your track right here. If you're a Patreon of mine, by the way, make sure that your Discord account and your Patreon account are linked, so that I can see that you're my patron, and then you get priority in feedback streams. I send my track on Discord, perfect. Here, I would say that the track has issues with the vocals. There's just not enough space for the vocals to come through here. I can definitely see why you would want to maybe have a drop segment with vocals in there, but then I would suggest doing just kick and bass and then vocals, and then maybe like some very small atmosphere stuff or some very dark atmosphere stuff that is out of the way of the vocal, like you have over here where the vocal really has a lot of space. Even here the vocal seems like you low passed it around like this area over here. I would just use all of the high frequencies of the vocal that are available, and if there aren't any available, saturate it a little bit, maybe OTT it a little bit, bring them out, maybe with some EQ as well. I don't know if the total was big. It was fun. Yeah, sometimes you're hard to understand, especially when you're writing. I'm sure that you set it out in your head. I sometimes also have jokes like that where you say it out in your head and it sounds funny, and then you write it down and you just read it as text and it's not really there. Or at least I didn't get it. I'm not saying that that's your fault. Maybe it's mine. Some very nice sound design here. It's a famous pun? Oh. Yeah, then it's my fault.
Humans who are limited by slow biological...
It's all good, man. Yes. I get it now. I do see what you mean, yeah.
Humans who are limited by slow biological...
Where am I from? I'm Dutch, but I've been living in Italy for the last decade now. 11 years almost. Here you had the issue that we see often where in this case, just the sub of the kick and bass is as loud as the sub of the kick and bass when the kick and bass is playing in the drop, meaning that you don't have a lot of that impact from the kick and bass once the drop starts to play. Again, I would turn it down by like 5 dB when it's not in the drop. So the same. So in my opinion, it is better to just remove it and fully focus on the power of the synths here. I'm from Croatia, nice. I did get closer to Greece, yes. I do have to say though, as a Dutch guy, I think I'm legally obligated to say if you guys enjoyed my taxpayer money down there in Greece. But now that I live in Italy, I know it's very weird to say, because I mean we also send some money to Italy. Just kidding. It's a thing in the Netherlands politically that people are still mad about Greece getting money from the European Union, and we have some very weird politicians that now also want their money back and all kinds of weird stuff, or they want to get out of the European Union. I'm sorry, here. That's the autoplay. Very good track. I should not be making jokes. I should be listening to the track. It sounds very, very good. Very nice. There's a few things, mainly the sub bass being a little bit on the loud side. Have you worked with a singer's freestyle, no beats in the background? No. I make psytrance, and usually we don't even have singers in there. So, yeah, I don't work with that. Next up, we have Josh, who cannot wait. Fear not, you don't have to wait any longer. Mystic Vibes Remix. I'm assuming that this is a remix of his own track, right? Because if it's a remix of somebody else's track, I cannot play it, unfortunately. That's the rules. First of all, you give me permission to review your track during the live stream and subsequent video on YouTube. This means that you cannot copyright claim any of the streams. So don't do that, by the way. I don't know if you would do that, but if you're intent on distributing, you need to make sure that my channel is whitelisted. And the second thing is, don't submit works to which you don't fully own the copyright to. So no remixes. Essentially. Yeah, it's a remix of my own track. Perfect. Let's have a listen. Mystic Vibes by Josh Ali the Shock. Interesting username. Interesting sound design also. Kick and bass again, a little bit too sub heavy in my opinion. I'd also like to see some resampling. Here the transients are getting destroyed a little bit. This is one is being pushed away. This is usually what happens when you start exactly on the saw wave click. It kind of skews the transient down or up to one way, which means that this is peaking much higher than it needs to be. There's a few fixes for that. One is more phasing, right? More processing with the phase shift that usually works. The second thing that you can do is set the phase in the synth that you're using ever so slightly more forward, so that this side of the click also comes through. Nice change of element here. I like it. One of the things that you'll hear with the lack of cleaning a little bit in this particular case is that the sub bass isn't like punch anymore. It just sounds like it's going like one continuous zoom, as opposed to the individual pockets that you want from the pocket of the kick and then the pocket of this bass, the pocket of this bass, the pocket of this bass. You know what I mean? I like it. I like what we've got here. Another change in elements. It's really nice to hear people that kind of arrange in the same way that I do, in that each section has its own unique main element. I like that much more than that slow kind of progression for all of the elements that you sometimes hear in other people's track, where the old elements kind of continue to play on top of whatever new element they add on in the new section. So arrangement-wise, this is sounding very nice. Is annoying in the mix, like you might get some issues with this pushing into the limiter and starting to distort the very start of that transient there. Overall, I could say that you could use a little bit more phasing on the bassline, which is what you get from multiband processing, but then you would have to resample. So that's a distinction that you would need to make. Another thing that you can try, seeing as this is has a little bit of like a progressive vibe to it, is a little bit of stereo wave. Specifically, the plugin that I like is M Stereo Spread. I've shown this a lot on my stream because I think it's amazing. You can set the minimum frequency here, which is very important. As you can imagine, we don't want to stereonize any of the lower frequencies, any of the lower mid-range. We want that to be stable, we want that to be nice. But just introducing it like this, playing around with the bands until you get the texture that you want, and then the focus to find which frequency area you want to affect more. This affects more the higher frequency, so more towards the transient, and this kind of affects more the lower mid-range of this selected area, so more towards the sustainy part of the bassline. Personally, I would usually go with a setting that looks somewhat like this, and then dial in the spread amount to taste until you have a shape that kind of looks ever so slightly stereo like this. It's also very nice because you have a stereoscope in here, and if you turn it off, you essentially just have a stereo analyzer, which is very nice. And you can set overall width here as well. You can do panning, so you can do like corrective stereo processing. Not as good. You can't do as good corrective work as you can do with the M Stereo processor, which has multiband capabilities. I use this a lot on synth. I wouldn't use this on bass, mainly because I don't like to use too many crossover filters on my bassline. But if it's part of your phasing setup and then you resample, then it could be okay. I said a lot of technical things there. If you're not familiar with my work, and if you don't know what some of those words meant, I highly recommend that you watch my ultimate guide to kick and bass, which you can find by clicking on my channel, and then it should be the first video that pops up for you guys. Because if I go to there myself, I can show it. It's the channel trailer. So I go to my channel here, on desktop at least. Now I'm streaming, so it doesn't show. I guess I can find it like this. I can quickly show you which one it is. It's one of my most popular videos, so you'll be able to find it right here. You need this one, not this one over here. This is the old version, this is the newer version that kind of replaced this version over here. It still doesn't have the views that this one has, but this one has 2 years of a head start, so it's catching up very quickly. Thank you, Projector. You have a new fan, by the way. Congrats on your record label, by the way. Great music. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad that the feedback was helpful. And that you're my fan. I'm glad for everything. I love this. I love what I'm doing. I love that I get the support from you guys, that I can continue doing this, and that there's always new people joining and submitting interesting music and stuff like that. Next up, we have... I'm not sure how I should pronounce this, if this is like an Italian V where it becomes a U. Because then it would be Duosi. Otherwise it would be Dovy, if it's differently pronounced. Anyway, this is Vibe God, and I'm sorry for mispronouncing probably your artist name. Let's see. Bit more of a housey vibe here. It looks like there's a mirror down here, and this is just a reflection of this in the water. I guess that's why they call it a waterfall display. Nice interplay between the vocal and the bass melody.
What I wanna do. What I wanna do. That shit that I pour, I'm not gonna do is I wanna vibe with you. Vibe with you.
Sounds very groovy.
With you, that is what I wanna do. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do.
Very well done on the vocal mix. It's nice and clear.
I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a do like game here to groove. I wanna vibe with you. Vibe with you.
It's not the normal kind of music that we get for the feedback, but it's sounding very, very nice. Very clean. In terms of the mixing, in terms of the overall tonality.
Got a shit, got a pull, I'm not here to lose. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull, I came here to groove. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull, I'm not here to lose. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do.
First time here. Yeah.
Shit, got a
You have a very
here to groove.
bright profile picture, so I can tell it's very yellow. It's not the profile picture I normally see in the chat.
Vibe with you. Wanna vibe with you. Vibe with you. Vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do.
A lot of interplay between the melodies that you have in the track. I actually have a video coming up
With you.
relating to that, but more in the sense of rhythm.
Gotta do like game.
In the way that I have a track where a lot of rhythms kind of have a lot of cohesion. In this case, it's the melody that is cohesive with, like, between the elements. So between the vocal and the bass,
With you.
or that synth sound that we heard in the vocal. Your first time here too, yes.
With you.
I also noticed that. You're also a new name in my chat.
Vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. I wanna vibe with you. Vibe with you. Vibe with you. Vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull, I'm not here to lose. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull, I came here to groove. I wanna vibe with you. That is what I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull.
I like this segment as well. It's a nice variation, keeping it fresh.
I wanna do. Got a shit, got a pull, I came here to groove.
Emerald, welcome to the stream. How are you doing?
Vibe with you. Vibe with
Might have to lower the reese. It could be a little bit lower, but to be honest, we have been listening to the vocal for so long at this point that you get used to it, so you can overtake it a little bit. And it's followed by a place where it's very clear again, right? So just from a technical mix wise, you're not like overpowering the vocal to a problematic extent throughout the whole track. It's maybe just a little bit happening with the reese bass, and even then that would be okay. You can just let the reese bass shine a little bit more if you want to, like, because there's still a little bit of creativity in mixing. Which element do you want to prioritize there? There is a case to be made for the reese bass to get a little bit more priority than you would normally give it.
With you, that is what I wanna do. Got a shit.
I had to play a set this morning from 4 to 6. Nice, that's the best time slot. Absolutely not a disruptive time slot to be awake.
With you. With you, that is what I wanna do. With you, that is what I wanna do.
Very nice. Sounds very good. We have one more track here, not exactly sidetrends, but somewhat related. That is absolutely no problem, by the way. For anybody joining the stream, joining for feedback, you can submit whatever genre that you want, even the last thing. It's absolutely no issue. I will listen to anything, rock, pop, whatever. Obviously, I am doing, I know sidetrends the best. That is what I make. That is what I know. That is also the music that I put out on YouTube when I do tutorials and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that I limit myself in the feedback stream to that kind of music. Let's see what we have. Octa with Deep Dive. Mental Dub. Sounds interesting. 111 BPM in F. It's more mental techno. I don't exactly know what you mean with the mental part there. I guess we'll find out. All of the sound design is already like very psychedelic. I like it. You can definitely hear that the kick is more techno-y. Little bit resonant here. Also sounds like that, what I would like to do with sounds like that is make them a lot more stereo. So instead of like coming here, they kind of scream around you. A little bit heavy on the sub bass, I would say. You're kind of droning out the rest of the track now. You can also hear some of the other elements having a hard time competing in the limiter part, because the sub bass is kind of saturating the other sounds into the limiter, right? Or clipper or whatever you use to get your final loudness. Mental side but darker in free techno. It sounds very nice. I like it. The musical ideas are definitely there. Just some small mixing things. this kind of stuff. I would say that this is kind of in the experimental range where you wouldn't normally hear this even if you go to like a techno club. It's even maybe a little bit too experimental for that. Like the normies would leave if you play something like this. But I love this kind of stuff. I love this kind of slightly on the edge, slightly experimental kind of way of writing. Very well done. I might have cranked the limiter too hard on that part. It's noticeable because the sub bass is a little bit too high. I think if you just lower the sub bass, it already should lower the problem, because then it should just lower that waveform going into it. You can sometimes hear it that it has that ducking effect, right? Where if you have a bass line like here, it kind of ducks all of the other sounds and volumes once the bass plays, and then the bass stops playing, and all of those sounds just kind of go zoom in volume, and it becomes very noticeable. But here again, it's very clean. Very cool. Very nice track. I like it. Oh. It's the autoplay again. I'm sorry. Yeah, very nice. We have some more stuff in here, apparently. We have Dema here. We have an ED together with Daada. And another track over here. We'll just start with this one. Very cool track once again. I just want to say once again, very, very well done. I really liked it. Next up, Dema and Daada with ED. 148 BPM in the key of A. Let's see. The resi tones are also in a bit different scale, but in this case it doesn't bother me. Yeah, in this case it just works. Right, because it's like aggressive and it's so high up that I think it just works. I'm sorry, here there seems to be some very slow internet here. I need to just let it load a little bit, I think. Let's see. Nope. It's not liking that. Maybe I'll just download the files quickly. I'll also do the same for the other one already. So that can just play them immediately. Yeah, it's going to take a couple of minutes of downloading. And then we can get into it. And this is a Not Tuned project work in progress. Yes, okay. So Not Tuned is, I think, your techno thing, right? If I remember correctly. This is his Psy alias, and this is more of a techno thing, I believe. Getting some more connection issues here. Je woont niet in Nederland, toch? Nee, I live... Cremona is the place name called. It's northern Italy, just like an hour below Milan. Yes, bro, melodic techno. Nice. We're just downloading it. It takes a little bit of time to download. As you can see, we're working on it like 2 minutes, and then we should be able to get into it. While I have you guys here, while there's all these people here, I just quickly want to once again say that I recently recorded my first live set, and I would love it if you guys were to go over there and support me by listening to it. the best thing that you can do is just listening it the whole way through. That gives us a nice amount of watch time. So anytime you have like 1.5 hours of free time and you want something to listen to, right over here is my live set. Again, with the internet, it's not loading, but you can see here 1 hour 20 minutes, all mixed by me. Live set or DJ set? It's a DJ set. I recorded it at home, but with DJ stuff, with the console. It's not like DJing as in the club, but DJing at home. So it's not as high of a stake as a live set, I guess. Okay, so the not tuned one finished first downloading. So I'll start listening to that one and then we'll do the other one. Sorry. I hope I won't get a copyright strike. I'm assuming that it's all okay in terms of copyright. Sounds very good. The vocal mix is very well done. Where do I send my track? You send your track in the Discord server. ! Feedback. Oh. You're the music to my life, the rhythm to my soul. It is clipping a little bit, Emerald. It may be okay to just lower that a little bit. It's, I guess, up here maybe, slightly. It's not to the point where I can hear like there's audible distortion, but if you want this track to be a little bit more dynamic, you definitely can. Although also here the bassline has like the movement as well, like it goes up and down. So I guess it's good enough. What's not good enough is the fact that the transient, that the bassline is bleeding into the transient here heavily, by the way. You can see it here, here, here. You need to add a phone to it so that the bassline kind of stops right before the kick and then the kick transient plays. Again, the bot is not waking up. Here I'll drop the link. What's this? I just get the invite link real quick. Invite link. There you go. You can join the Discord for anybody who wants to submit for feedback. Scroll down over here, feedback on stream, and you just put it in here. Make sure that you are following the rules, which is this over here. Very nice track, Dema. Sounds very, very good. I like it. Can I send my track which is released on Omni Moon Records? Unfortunately, probably not, because they are going to then claim the stream. With record labels like that, you would need to priorly like contact them and say like, okay, when this guy is going to play my track, I want you to whitelist him. And they need to arrange something with the distributor so that I don't get claimed. And once I have confirmation of that, maybe in a week or in 2 weeks, if I do another feedback stream, then you can play it. But just straight up playing it like this, no, I'll get in trouble for copyright issues usually. So I'm not willing to risk it that way. Next up, we're going to the sidetrans track, the Dema versus Daada ID at A148 BPM. Sounds nice. I like that you're filtering out about 8K above on the bass. That's what I usually do. Gives you more space for the drums, which are sitting in there very nicely. I don't even have to check if it's clean because it's also short. You never run into that issue. I went to the beginning of the stream for the Orin track and it's not there. Maybe it can be the case because we had like one disconnect that it will only be available once the video is made, once I stop streaming. If that's not the case, I can like later send it to you. Maybe if I have it in my YouTube studio. I 100% featured the track on stream. I remember doing so. So there's definitely footage of it somewhere. Some really cool sound design going on here. Is this the Daada from my Discord as well as the Daada Sai wavetable packs? Is it that Daada? Because it sounds a little bit like his style, his very complex sound design stuff. I could definitely see that if it was him. But I mean, it's also the kind of stuff that you already do, right, Dema? What I'm saying is you guys should collab. If it isn't already you guys collabing. This is sounding very nice. It's your sound design. Okay. Because I thought that it's the Daada who is labeled in the title here. Sounds very cool. Sounds very nice. It's all yours. Nice. The table pack Daada. Yes. That guy. I use his tables all the time. They're great. Okay, let's see. We have 3 more tracks here. Is this the track that you sent that is the one from Moon? No, bro. Thank you, bro. You're welcome. Having trouble with this mixdown. Bob Ross presents Dark Tech A minor 160 BPM. I don't think I'll get issues with Bob Ross copyright stuff, so I'm willing to take that risk. Hope you'll have time to play the second track.
I'd like to welcome you.
Hope you have time to play the second track I sent you to. No, it's not the one from Omnivore. Okay, perfect. Let's listen. Some old school dubstep wobbles, yes. Is this already meant to be the drop, or is this still the build-up? I think here we have the drop. It's hard to understand where you want us to dance. I like all of the sound design, all of the stuff that you're doing, but it's so chaotic that it's hard for me to understand exactly when I should be dancing and when I should be hyped to get started with dancing, which is what the build-up is. I feel like all this time we're still in the build-up. How can I see hertz on the signalizer? You can hover over it and then it will show hertz in the little diagram here on the normal spectrum. In here you can see 10,000, 1,000 and 100. And then there's more bars over here that show every like value of this. So there's 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Here there's 200, 300, 400, 500. Drop, there's no real sub bass playing when you ask. Yeah, I think the problem is everything is like really flat, right? This waveform is always this kind of sausage flat, which means that even in the parts that aren't dropped, the loudness is basically at the maximum. So what I would do is in these sections here, just make it a little bit quieter, so that when the drop actually hits, that you have that extra impact, that extra loudness, and it becomes a little bit easier to understand where the drop itself is. Thanks for responding. I mean, it doesn't show any... I don't know then. I just have a preset here that I have worked with for a long time. And for me, it shows the numbers up here. I'm sorry I didn't listen too much to the track. I do really like it. I will say, it's not that the thing that I described with the drop that is like necessarily a problem. It's just that in this style, the way that you're writing something really complex. It can be hard to lose track of that complexity for the listener, because you as a producer, you have the project in front of you, so you know exactly where the structure is meant to be, right? You know exactly, oh, like I want the drop to be here, I want the build-up to be here, and then in production, you can be as complex as you want, but you always have that idea in your head. The listener won't. So you need to be able to put the idea in the head of the listener as well, through the way that you're mixing, through the way that you're mastering, through the way that you're arranging, all of that stuff. When you're doing something so complex, in this case, in my opinion, what you should do is have the track a little bit more dynamic, and then, especially in the macro dynamics, when it's the break, just lower the volume, lower the loudness a little bit. I found it needed to load the analytical preset, thank you. You're welcome. I mean, you can even, if you want, copy this if there's some issues with the settings that you see here. You can just copy my settings here. But I do also have, in my Discord server, for those that use Ableton, I have the rack that I use. So on this track over here, I have this little rack that I made with the analyzers. If you go here in resources, you should be able to find analyzers. If I search like this, no, it doesn't like that, unfortunately. Somewhere if I scroll up, then at some point you're going to see the here analyzers _2, this one. What I'll do is write this message. You guys can just click this and it will directly get you to the analyzers. This is again for if you're using Ableton, it will open up the rack and it will open up your signalizer just like this with all 4 components. And then you should be good to go. Next time I need to find the analyzers, I can just search for analyzers and it will get me to here. And then from there I can click the attachment and find it. Yeah, transitions to guide the listener to tell us here comes the drop. Yes, exactly. Most experimental. It is indeed very experimental, so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to say that, because I'm pushing your track a little bit more back into what you would normally hear. Like back into the normie stuff, I guess. But I do think that a little bit of that, having a little bit of messaging towards the listener, like, okay, this is about to come, this is the part where you can really start to dance for the next like 30 seconds, and then we go into the next breakdown, and then we go into the next crazy part. I think that will help the track. I think it will make the track more digestible to listen to. Okay, let's see. What time is it? We still have quite some time actually. Next up we have Try Bass House by Okta. Needs 2 seconds to load. There we are. Bit of a high click happening here. I'm not sure if you want that. I think that's a kick like coming in. To be honest, if you have like a very dark growly track like you have over here, I would remove that very sharp click from the kick drum. Yeah, especially here since this is sounding very, very dark. I like the violins part, sounds very cool. I always like using real world instruments and hearing it in other people's tracks as well, sounds very nice. Something to look out for is what you have over, I think over here, with the kick transient and this bass note kind of bleeding into that kick transient. That can cause a lot of problems, so what you would need to do is either resample your bass line or make sure that you're properly LFO-ing it, properly sidechaining it, so that the transients of the kick always stay stable. And this part here, like here you can see there's a proper punch, and here it just gets completely destroyed. So it's this bass note kind of morphing into the start of the kick over here. You don't want that. You want this bass note to essentially stop here, and then a little bit of silence, and then have the transient play. Your kick and bass tutorials are legendary. Thank you. I like the idea of adding more dynamics. I think it would benefit the track, yeah. Overall, the sound design is very crazy in this one too. Some really proper theming as well. If you wanted to, mix-wise, you can take the sub down by like 2 dB. The sub bass area then, I would just have like a high shelf at maybe 100 Hz-ish. To just kind of slope this down by 2-3 dB maybe. Because it's sounding a little bit boomy, it's sounding a little bit too much on the sub bass right now. I like the use of the melodic elements that you have in this. Even though it's a very dark track, there's a lot of melody in there as well. It felt like there was a loop there that was out of sync with the rest of the track. It kind of sounded like my last transition in the DJ set that I just promoted. That was also slightly out of sync. Didn't sound the best. But I'm still learning. Great track. Sounds very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. We have 3 more messages. Oh. It's the autoplay again. I hate that so much. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more tracks here. After this, I'm probably going to close the queue. I want to take a quick break right now, so that I can go pee. And then we'll listen to the other 4 tracks. And then I'll call it a day for today, because I do have some other things to do today. I'm still learning mix-wise. There's a little bit to improve there, but overall it sounded very nice. The main thing I would improve is the cleanliness of the kick and bass there. I think you can apply the tutorial that I made on it basically for your genre. There should be a little bit more adapt work that you might need to do, but overall you should be able to apply that. Mainly just the theory that the transient of every kick should be coming through on its own and there shouldn't be a bass note playing on top of it. I see somebody is typing. I'll let him post his track and then I'll close the queue here. You probably won't get time, but there's much different track to review. Yes, I'll close the queue after this. I'll take a quick break myself, so that as I said, I can pee, and then I'll listen to all 5 of these tracks. This is where we left off, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll call it a day for today. Okay, let's see. I'll just put on this other song from... I have a bunch of different songs that I don't want to spoil for you guys. One, because there's like a collab thing happening, which I already played in the live set as well. And the other, there's a lot of stuff in here that is going to go to an upcoming album of mine. And I want to have at least a few tracks on the album that you guys will have never heard once the album comes out. So that's why I'm just, again, repeating the same track that I used 2 days ago. For my break, I'll use the same thing now. I still hope that you guys will enjoy it. I think you will, because it's a nice track. I like this one a lot. It's one of my, if not my favorite track that I've ever written.
this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. Every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality.
Nice little interaction in chat there. You guys are so much alike, you finish each other's words. That's also a very famous sentence. See what I did there? I'm sometimes scared that as I'm streaming, I make a joke and nobody gets it. It's your worst nightmare. Still in my head, I now have the track Ants on Mushrooms coming up, because I mixed it into this track so many times when trying to record the live set. Give me just a second here. We don't need this anymore. And we do need this here, because we have 5 more tracks to listen to. Starting off here, I believe, right? Yeah, this is the Tri-Bass House. This is the experimental thing that we just listened to. And here we have Elixir by Josh Ali The Shock. Cymates, yes. Nice little atmosphere here. Synths like these, when you, especially when you're playing them alone in the intro, they should have a stereo component to them. In this case, it was completely mono. Here, this one is also a little bit on the mono side. like especially when you have the intro, which should be like wide and big and open, I guess is the right word, then stuff should be stereo. If you want to get a little bit more impact out of your synths, they can be a bit more mono, but in general you want a stereo component to them. I like it. Sounds nice. Bassline looks decently clean. You can see a little bit of stereo wave here on the bassline, just by the waveforms being slightly different. I like the stereo play that you have on this synth as well. This is well done. Here could use a little bit of extra high frequencies here. Again, I often say this, but normally when it comes to a sideline spectrum, what you'll see is usually a shape that looks a little bit like this. It goes up a little bit here. You want a slight dip in around 400, maybe 300 to 500 region, this kind of region here. And then you have it kind of stay here. It goes down a little bit, and then you'll see the hats just have an extra little bloop in here. There's a little bit of it here, but it could be a little bit more in this case. You just want it to be slightly like airy in the sense that it just grabs the attention there. Here with the build-up snare as well, it should be tick 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 tick. It should have that like high sizzle to it. How often do I stream? I try to stream at least once during the week, and then I stream every Sunday for the feedback stream. But I like to also stream sometimes some production. Right now we're in the mixing of a project, so I streamed actually twice this week before the feedback stream. Nice little switch here. I would like to see a fill for when you're switching to an element like this, where the switch is this drastic. There should probably be like a bar of a fill in between the two sections, so you can have a little bit more of a clean transition there. Again, I feel like the track is a little bit too mono. Like, I feel like there's some main elements, even this synth that is playing now here, the main sequence. It is moving slightly left to right, which sounds nice. But just some overall stereo width with a plugin like M Stereo Sped can really help enhance just the perceived bigness of the track, because everything sounds like it's coming from here when it's stereo, whereas if it's mono it sounds like it's all happening in your head. This melody coming through that you have here. It's nice. The only like quote-unquote issue that I have here in terms of the mix with these main elements is that maybe your synths are a little bit on the loud side, especially because you always have two synths playing at the same time, and they're both trying to grab your attention in the same way. Like it's hard to listen to the acid line now, and it's hard to listen to the melody now. Normally you would mix them in a way so that, for example, the acid line becomes more of a supporting element, and then the melody sits on top of that. this is nice and clear. Here you can hear we have one synth playing, we have some one-shots, which is good. But now it's clear what you want me to listen to, right? Heard a one-shot as well, that was a little bit too mono for my liking. Great tip with the dynamics with supporting elements. Thank you. You're welcome. It's going to be one of the points for a video that I'm planning out, which is going to be like 10 biggest mistakes beginners make. I'm going to properly explain the 4 levels of separation in volume separation, stereo separation, frequency separation, and time separation. How you separate different elements so that every element can come through the mix clearly. And also the level of how many elements should you put in one spot of the track. Those are the things that I often hear in beginner's track. Not saying that this is a beginner track, you can definitely hear that you have some experience under your belt in your sound design and also just the basic version of the mix. Like, it's not bad, right? It's, again, it's the last 5% that can be a little bit better. But I think it's a good idea for me to create a video like that, because I do realize that I have very little beginner content on my channel. I tend to focus a little bit more on the advanced stuff because that's what I personally like. Overall, great track. Great sound design. Needs a little bit of work towards the mix. But it sounds great. Final thing, if you're doing a fade out outro, make sure that it actually fades out properly. Just add like a final volume automation on your master so that towards the very end it just kind of stops naturally. Now it's fading out and then it cuts out and then it stops. The way that you would want, what you would want is that it just slowly fades to silence without that cut being there. Essentially, I mean, that's what I would do. It just sounds a little bit less drastic once it actually stops playing. Next up, we have Cosmic Glow here, but glow without the W. Okay, Cosmic Glow with Akasha Download. Akashic. I'm sorry with the pronunciation. You guys know what I am like. Little clicked in there. I don't know if that was me or if that's actually in the track. Maybe some connection issue, maybe some internet issue. I like the vocal mix in here. I like that you're leaving a lot of high frequencies for the details of the vocals to come through. A little bit of a stylistic problem I would say is that, again, the volume is so loud that the kick and bass doesn't really have an impact here. In this case, the bassline also lacks a lot of sub bass. That's very loud. Kick also doesn't have any like lower bass punch. Some very loud stuff over here as well. Synths are a little bit on the loud side again. Here, this like big atmosphere is kind of overtaking the kick and bass. To be honest, the bassline sounds a little bit too processed to me. It sounds a little bit too zappy, too like there's too much phase shift going on. Very loud fill there. Yeah, no sub, yeah. It's lacking some lower frequency, some lower stability here. And now everything in the leads is very loud. You can see the waveform is being completely destroyed by the synths, and you can no longer clearly see that kick and bass shape. Very loud riser here. Remember that the riser like that is a supporting element. It should be behind the other elements that are actually telling the story of your track. In this case, it's taking over not just the kick and bass, but also that main lead, which in and of itself is overtaking the kick and bass, so it's way too loud. Like, idea-wise, I really like this track. It's just in the mixing there's some issues. Like right here, there should be coming from the kick and bass, and it's just not there because there's nothing down here. There's not enough stuff happening down here. Mix stuff aside, nice track. Exactly. The ideas are definitely there. Apart from the loudness, the other thing that I'm hearing, here I'm hearing just some kind of weird stutter, which I didn't like. The other thing that I'm hearing is a little bit too much delay and reverb. Like everything sounds very washed out. It doesn't really have a lot of clear definition. Some very loud fill elements again. There was a sub over there, suddenly. The bass almost seems louder than the kick. The kick is a little bit on the quiet side, yes. But that's also because I feel like the kick and bass is on the quiet side. Like altogether. Now we're getting some sub. This is sounding a lot heavier, this is sounding a lot stronger. I don't like that. I don't like that the drop itself has less sub bass than what was happening in the break. Also, it has less volume than the break has. So again, in terms of its impact, the drop actually takes a step back in energy. It says actually, oh, you can slow down here. We're getting quieter, we're getting less energetic. Whereas it should be the opposite coming out of the breakdown. Again, the arrangement and the sounds are very well done. It's just mixing-wise some very strange decisions here. I feel like the low end and the mixing is my hardest part. I don't really have a proper studio setup. If you're interested, on my website, projectorsound.com, you'll find a document where I offer my mixing services. If you're interested in that. Otherwise, the best way to do it is just practice, practice, practice. And the best way to practice is by tuning your ears. What I do is I listen every day on my system to at least half an hour of professionally mixed music. That is how I like get into the flow of things before I start producing or doing stuff like that. That might not fully negate the kind of setup that you have, but even if you heard my mixes coming from the old speakers, you'll know that even with my crappy speakers, I was able to get pretty decent mixes with that. Use Voxengo Span, stuff like that also. That's useful, just analyzing in general, the way that I'm analyzing the waveform as well, the way that I'm analyzing in the waterfall, the way that I'm analyzing over here, like the averages, the stereo analysis that I'm doing over here, all of that is useful information. This doesn't replace listening, of course. This is just to give you extra confidence in the things that you're doing. You guys can go watch actually the 2 streams that I did this week if you want like a full walkthrough of how I would mix a track. You can just see that, right? The mixing is all done on camera. You can see that. Do you do one-on-one classes on mixing? I do as well, yes, of course. You can contact me for one-on-one classes on Discord. Another thing that you might be interested in if you want to improve your mixes is my masterclass. My masterclass is... I cannot show that. I can only show products. I mean, you guys can see how much I earned with products, but I guess, yeah. You guys know that I make money with products, so that's okay. I shouldn't be showing that on stream either way. This is the masterclass. This is the full edition. So here you will have both the videos as well as all of the project files and stuff like that. There's a video only edition for half the money. So this is 120 bucks. The other one is 60 bucks. You can pay more if you want to support me. But as you can see, it's 24 hours of video material, all edited down, all commented on, everything explained. And that includes mix preparation, 31 minutes, the initial mix, 4 hours and 2 minutes, and then the final mix, 1 hour and 44 minutes, and then as well mastering in 30 minutes, and then some conclusions in which I kind of go over everything. And of course, the whole production phase as well. This is the whole production phase. So if you're interested in that, here's the video only edition. It's just the videos, but it's, as I said, the same chapters and stuff like that. Go check that out if you want to improve your stuff. Do any extra plugins come with the masterclass? So the way that the masterclass, the way that you're able to look at it is you get both the project files if you have all of the plugins installed for the masterclass, as well as all of the stems for the tracks. So you can open the mixing project and you could do your own mixing chain. You can do your own mastering chain, but all of the render out, you get all of the audio files for rendering so that you can basically step in at any time if you want. Is it all Logic or Ableton stock plugins? No, there's extra plugins involved. It just shows my workflow, so I didn't try to stay within a plugin or stay within a DAW. In fact, I use Ableton for the production part. So Ableton is used in this part of the masterclass up until here. Actually, up until the mix prep. Mix prep is preparing the production for mixing. So this still happens in the production project. And these 2 steps actually happen in Reaper, which is a whole different DAW. You don't need any of that. In the way that I explain in the masterclass, you don't need any of the plugins or need any of the DAWs. Obviously, it helps if you want to emulate exactly what I'm doing, but you don't need exactly my EQ to match my EQ curve, right? Or you don't need exactly the kind of compressor that I'm using to compress the way that I'm compressing something. Or with the mastering, you don't need my exact mastering like compressor or the mastering clipper that I'm using or my final mastering limiter, because I just explain how the process works. And then you can emulate that with whatever plugins that you're comfortable with. Or if you do say like, oh, I like the way that he is using that plugin, I might pick that plugin up, then you can pick up one of those plugins and you can learn a bit about how to use the plugin as well. Okay, next up we have this track over here, Magic Flame by The Eternal Point, which is again Josh Ali. I guess this is my friend Resonance made this. It's a collaboration project. Josh Ali the Shock and his friend Resonance. Nice Goa vibe. We're just getting into it. No intro. Would be nice to have a little bit of an intro in here. Kick and bass is nice and clean. I like that. But it's also tonally sounding good. Although the kick does have a little bit of a slap to it. Like it does like bloop, bloop, bloop. That usually means that the very initial part here is slightly too long in terms of the pitch envelope. It should be a little bit shorter. But it's not so bad that it's really noticeable. Like you can get away with this. Again, we have switch elements, so a fill would be nice here to indicate that. Sometimes towards the end of the live stream I start using the word again so many times. Because I always say the same thing over and over again, I feel. Not that that's like a big problem, this is the kind of thing that you run into when you do feedback. People tend to make the same kinds of, not really mistakes, but choices at least. When it comes to the mixing, when it comes to the arrangement as well. Like the lack of fills, that is a very common thing. Oh, nice to see that Stream Elements finally decided to wake up and actually help me market my products. There's the link to my products, by the way, for anybody interested in my masterclass. Also other things, sample packs, preset packs, wavetable stuff. Here again, having a fill in there to make that change, to one stop the old element from playing and have the new element kind of come in, replace it. Just makes your track a little bit easier to follow. One of the reasons for that has to do with resetting the listener. Right now I have kind of lost where we are in the beat, where we are in the structure of like bar, where the start of the bar is, where the start of every 8 bar is, where the start of every 16 bars is, whatever section that you're working in. I've kind of lost that completely. If you have a little fill, then you kind of get back into it, because that's an indication of, oh, we're at the end of a section, here's a fill, this is the beginning of the next section, you're back in the structure now. And that is missing here, because now I don't exactly know where in the structure I am. So that means that out of nowhere something can happen, like this, and I wouldn't be ready for it while I'm dancing. Great products, tone packs are cool. Serum presets also, make one for Vital please. I am working on a Vital pack. But I recently asked in a community post what people wanted and 50% wanted a serum pack. So I'm feeling like I'm working on the wrong pack. I'm gonna do both. Hopefully in a little bit I have a little bit less work. I can spend some time working on products again. At this point, I'm dancing to it, but I'm completely like lost in the track. Just like I said before. Also, I feel like there's this one plug happening that just stopped now here. It's coming back, I feel, even. It's that low, that kind of tonality. It sits down here in the lower parts. And I feel like that is becoming boring because it's continuously playing. I think it has been playing for the last 3-4 sections now. I saw that poll, I was in minority. Yeah, I'm always going to upset some people when I'm doing those things. But I thought Vital would be a lot more popular. I thought Vital would have won it easily because it's free. But turns out the fact that I only exclusively use Serum in my productions does have an influence on what synth my audience likes. Yeah, this track was more of a bare bones quick jam with Go and melodies. Didn't make the transition clear. Yeah, the melodies themselves are very nice. All of the ideas are very nice. It's just not properly flowing from one segment to the next. Sitting in the car while driving faster than a train. I don't necessarily see it. It does feel like it has a little bit of a parallax effect where this is moving the fastest, this is moving at medium speed, and this is not moving at all. Seeing chairs in a row. Ah, yeah. Kinda. This is again a different track. That's the autoplay. That was actually the track that I was not supposed to play. It almost got me still. Anyway, nice track. I like it. Sounds very good. Next up we have this experimental track over here. Sounds very interesting. By Hub Hub. Starting off experimentally indeed, and I closed it because I'm an idiot. Here the train is going a little bit slower. Or they're a little bit more spacious. The seats are a little bit more spaced out. You get some more headroom. It's first class. We just passed by first class. Here we have second class. The seats are a little bit closer together. Is this experimental in that it doesn't have a bass line? Is that the idea behind it? You have some really cool atmospheres that sound very mono. If you have those very stereo instead, the kind of digital atonal plucky ones, if those become very stereo, I think it would sound a lot better. Because they are the kind of sound that would be in the background. So having those more stereo would put them more in the background. Finally we have a bass line. Now the kick has decided to become first class again and play a lot slower. It is very experimental indeed, yes. Kick could be a little bit louder in comparison to the bass line. Here you can see the little tray table that you have at the back of each seat. You can see the table that goes down. I like it. I like the vibe of it. It's sounding a little bit undefined in the stereo field. Like some of the elements that I think should be more stereo are like sounding very mono. Even the synth that is playing in here. But overall, in terms of idea, I do really like it. It is nice and experimental, but it does work. It is something that you can dance to. Next up, we have Lost and Found, Shiva Om here. And that will be the last track for today. Very loud. Very in the background vocal. Very reverb, very stereo, maybe a little bit too stereo as well. It would be nice to have that a little bit more upfront in your face. Nice strong vibe here. Very loud elements in here. The riser is very loud, the drums are very loud, the synth is very, very loud. The vocal is also panned to the right, I think. I like this part. Little bit busy here, again a little bit loud here. You're again lacking some impact in the drop itself by virtue of the rest being already as loud as the drop itself is. Kick and bass definitely needs cleaning here. There's no real distinction between all of the pockets that we normally go for, especially first and second bass notes. Very loud riser again, very loud lead again. But this one is the same as before. Yeah, stereo on purpose. To me it sounds like the vocal is too much in the background. It's too far behind the actual track. The vocal should be one of the attention grabbing elements. This is mastered, I assume. It sounds like it's on radio almost. It sounds a little bit over compressed, yeah. And that's also the reason why the breakdown was so loud. Maybe a bit over compressed, limited, yes. It's getting, right now it's getting into distortion territory with this loud riser and that kind of stuff. I like this part. You lack a lot of second harmonic in your bass line. This is very low. I feel like that's why the bass is sounding a little bit flimsy in the mid-range. Like this doesn't have it. This part of the bass is nice and fat in the mid-range as well. Still a little bit over compressed everything. Everything is squashed a bit too much together. And again the riser's kind of taking over here. Everything is kind of overtaking the kick and bass there. Overall though, in terms of idea, I do really like it. Sounds very, very cool. Thank you for the feedback. Hubbub here. You're welcome. I hope that is useful. This is a nice outro. I like that. The last one, it didn't fade out properly, or at least one of the last ones that we heard. But this one was very nice. Okay, I'm going to end it here. I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. I hope the feedback was helpful for everyone. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Yeah, so the next one is still before Easter, or Easter? Yeah, Easter, right? That's the holiday that's coming up. Pascua. Yeah, Easter. Easter is the translation of Pascua. This is what happens when you're not bilingual, but trilingual, I guess. So the next one is the 17th. And then I think the 24th I'll still be here. And then during the week I'll travel to my parents. And then the 31st I won't be here for sure. So I guess I'll see you guys next week. I'm also trying to do another mixing stream so that next week we can also finish the mixing session that we started this week. But we'll have to see how that goes. We'll see when we get there. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope that the feedback was helpful as always.